All right, to start with, tonight, you are going to need to have the presentation sign up opened up on some sort of device on a screen somewhere so that you can hit the links when we need them. This document is linked in Blackboard, I believe, as week 5 overview. And as we go through that, we are going to be getting to each of our presenters. They give you a little bit about their topic, possibly, unless they change their mind. The Padlet, I don't want you to actually write anything in it until they're done presenting, okay? I'd rather have you actually just listening to what they're presenting, and then at the end, take a moment and we'll go through that, okay? The Padlets at the very bottom, long document here. Okay, this bold information down below, this is actually on each of the Padlets on one of the kind of like sticky note squares that's on the Padlet. What you're going to do for peer feedback, you're going to give them a star. What are they shining at? What is something that this presenter is doing well? And what is a wish that you have for them? What do you wish that they would alter, add, or address in their lesson plan or their presentation? What is something this presenter might consider adapting in their lesson to make it a stronger lesson? Maybe something they didn't consider. All educators, like, we do that in the reflection at the bottom of our lesson plans as it is. Like, every time we teach something, we're like, oh gosh, this didn't go well. Maybe next time I should try this. I'll go back to this other way that I taught it last year because it worked better. I think it would work for these guys. You're always adapting. So it's just thinking about it from a different lens, getting input from other people. Don't forget to add your name on the sticky note on the Padlet, just because you are getting credit for those. Okay, so each one of those that you do, you're getting points for those. If you have your own Padlet account, your name will automatically show up. If you are logging in as a guest, you're going to want to type your name on each one. Okay, easy enough? All right, at the very top, we've got Rachel and her Padlet. And if I stop sharing this screen and pull up Rachel's, oh, Rachel, where's it at? Was it the one that has the aqua and the black on it? Yeah? Excellent. So right now it's up. My friends online, will you let me know if when I move this screen to the projector, if all of a sudden you can't see it anymore?
Yeah,
we can't see it. We can see it like on the live video, but like with your shared screen, it's a different window.
It's a different window. Okay. Hold on then. We will change that. Now, is it better?
Yeah, we can see it on now.
Okay. Rachel, you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, she's ready.
Oh, I am in it.
Yeah, this is your camera that's actually running you. And then you're going to use the arrows. The funny thing is when you wave over there, they can't see you. The wave has to be to this camera.
Oh, okay. So how do I move that?
So the arrow keys on the computer.
This.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So my lesson plan involves the arts and technology, but I'm focusing on second grade social studies.
Oh, I like. Okay. This is the hard part to explain. You have to take the cursor from this screen over to this one. And now the arrow should work.
Oh, okay. So my standards were second grade. I had one content one and then 2 media arts. So my first one was focusing on the use of maps, globes, and other simple geographic models, on with evaluating the routes of peoples or goods. And then this first media arts one was choose ideas, create plans and models for media art productions, and then identify and describe the experiences and share results of presenting media artworks. So my learning objectives for my students would be to use technology to demonstrate their understanding of various geographical models, to show their understanding of the content which is being presented. So I would teach them how to use Adobe Spark, which I'll get into that a little further. And then the students will also research about a country after they zoom in on the continent of their choosing. And then students will be able to create the video after identifying a specific area on a geographical model. So the timeline of this, my unit's going to be 1 to 2 weeks long. My pre-assessment is based off the students' prior knowledge of geographic models, continents, etc. And then I will base my instructions and units off the results of my students' pre-assessment. And then my post-assessment is the Adobe Spark video, the zoom in. So my materials that I'll need is obviously the app, and this will be installed on a teacher-provided iPad, so the students will just sign up. And then when they're making their videos, they'll just put their first and last name so they can come back and edit it and keep adding things, or when it's saved, the teacher can just go to the app and view their things. They'll use their Chromebooks to conduct research about their country that they chose, and then they'll use examples of maps and globes to help them. So my project overview and instructions. So my students will pick a continent in which to zoom in on. So they can choose 1 out of the 7 continents. When they choose that, they're going to choose a specific country within that continent. They'll find 3 facts regarding the country that they chose in the continent. Students' end goal, or their final draft, will be to create an Adobe Spark video. And then students will meet with me or their teacher assistant to help put the video together. So they'll not be on their own doing this. So my guided practice, I'll provide an example of a final draft, which I'll show in a minute. And then by providing my example, it'll take the entire class a step-by-step through creating Adobe Spark video. Just because of time, I'm not actually going to take you through it, but I would in real. So this. How do you play on?
Do you see the little play button at the bottom?
Oh, right here.
Oh, no, I lied.
Oh no.
Hit pause.
Pause. Okay. Oh no, back.
No. Did it work before?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good question.
I have it on my computer if you want me to.
Do you want to bring your phone number? Okay, so it'll be under here.
Under here?
Yep.
Okay.
Pause for a second. I don't know if I can share that screen. All right. Are you guys able just to see it up on the projector? We'll just go with it.
Okay. Yeah, it did.
Okay.
I just didn't hit the sound thing. Okay, so that was the example off my phone. So my class activity, you can just partner up and then I will pass out a continent and I just want you to zoom in on one country within that continent and choose 3 facts, but like 1 fact and then just share it. Okay? So you can choose a partner next to you or work in groups.
All right, Liza, Spencer, and Autumn, you guys are a partner group, okay? So what continent are you going to do?
You guys
Oh, she's telling me, sorry.
will do Europe. Here's your map.
That's your camera.
Oh gosh. This map.
Down lower. There you go. All right, guys, so the 3 of you have Europe. What do you want them to do?
Now, once you have your thing, zoom in on the country. So choose a country within that continent, and then research 3 facts. But this time, just look for like 1.
Do you want us all to do the same country?
No, you guys are Europe.
You guys can each have your own country, but find 1 fact about the country.
Yeah, you, Spencer and Autumn, can do Europe if you want, all together, or and you can have different facts or the same facts together. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Like if we have different countries, it doesn't matter as long as it's.
Nope, it doesn't matter at all.
I didn't normally either. I'm like, oh my God. I didn't either, 'cause I read it and she's like, if you don't have a presentation, that's fine.
Okay, I'm just gonna do the people in the classroom. They'll come to the people online. Sophia.
We chose Ethiopia.
Okay.
More than 70% of Africa's mountains are found in Ethiopia.
Okay. Hannah Casey's group.
We got Australia. We did New South Wales. And that was where the Sydney Opera House and Great Barrier Reef are.
Okay. Anyone online want to share?
I did Liechtenstein, which is in Europe. And it is an area of only 62 square miles, so it's 8 times smaller than the city of Los Angeles.
Okay. Spencer or Autumn?
I did Russia. Wait, is that in Europe or no? I just Googled it because I didn't have enough time.
You're good.
I couldn't see the map online, but whatever. I'll just go ahead and keep going with it. And it's home to the world's largest McDonald's, so that's my fun fact.
Good job, Autumn.
Thanks.
Spencer?
Italy is famous for pizza.
Good job, Spencer.
Are your facts supposed to be more descriptive in your class?
Yes, but they're second graders, so I'm not like expecting that descriptive. So then, just a curriculum review. I went over these 3 standards before, but this is just a refresher of what my kids will have learned during this unit. And then, after this lesson, my students will have the understanding of how to develop a video on Adobe Spark. They'll understand the map, slopes, and other geographical models. They'll understand how to research for information, and they'll also understand how to operate school-provided technology. Yeah, that's it.
All right, what I need from you is to take a moment, click on Rachel's Padlet. Oh, yeah, you'll want that. And you're going to add a new sticky note on that Padlet for your information.
Is the title just Stars and Wishes?
Yes, I think. Well, you can make the title whatever you want the title to be.
Wait, I thought you had to add your name to it.
You'll need your name too. So, I mean, some people might put their name as the title and then their information below it.
Struggling in the convenient spot for myself.
All right, Sophia, if you are ready to, I believe it was red. Yes. Yeah.
It's just like fatigue.
You and me both, but I think yours is probably in better shape than mine. Are you gonna switch between any other information besides what's on there? No? Okay. We are going to screen share this. So like that shows you where you're at in the video. Okay. Okay, so here's the thing. Yours is not on here. It's up there. So it's these arrow keys. Okay. Hello, everyone. Wrapping up your final thoughts? Is everyone ready? Thumbs up if you're ready.
Okay. I did literature and art for my final lesson plan. So I did a literature standard and then a visual arts standard. And so like summarize, they'll just need, for the literature standard, they just need to learn how to plan, revise, and edit a story, and with support from peers and adults, so like a group or with the teacher. And then elaborate on an imaginative idea, which I thought they could use that standard and work with their peers to create a fun story that everyone enjoys. Anyway, the student will be able to plan and brainstorm ideas for the stories with the shapes given, and then I have little shapes that everyone gets to cut out. So if everyone wants to cut these out. Ours is, then there's scissors up there. I don't know if I should touch the scissors.
Just gonna give you a moment to go get your own scissors.
Yes. They're cutting out shapes.
Oh. You can set it up to that for now.
Shapes
That's
and
not how you, how do you work scissors? She said that.
on the bottom.
out of all
Cut out whatever you want to cut out. If you think you need to label them, you need to label them.
Alrighty.
And they can use these shapes as a brainstorming tool to write their story with the peers. And then they'll plan, edit, and revise their stories throughout the process of brainstorming with a partner. And then they can present the rough drafts to their partner, like a peer feedback person. And I did print out a big copy of this, but it came out really blurry. So I just have a little tiny copy of my peer editing checklist. You can't see it, but it will be up here. And then the timeline is 1 to 2 weeks. Students will work on brainstorming for the first week, 40 to 45 minutes for each time we work on it as like a class. And then students will finish their draft and present their final book in the second week. The assessment plan is like the rough draft process, and I thought my pre-assessment would be the peer review checklist. And I'm sorry that it's small. And then the post-assessment, students will present their final drafts of the storybook to the class all together. So, and then here's my peer editing. So it's really blurry up here, but it says just like simple things that the partner can look at, and they can fill in yes, no sometimes. What I really liked about your story, what like parts that can make your story even better. And it's just like the author started every sentence with a capital letter, just simple things to make sure that they're writing correctly and following their storyline. And the materials I would need for this is just writing utensils, colored pencils, markers, however my students want to create the story and what art materials they want to use. And then the cutout shapes, and then the different diagrams or ideas on ways to create a book for student stories. Actually, I put out my book. And I thought they could use the books like this, like use the diagrams and create their book kind of like, if they wanted to use like how we did in class. The content outline of students will be learning the process of how to develop and strengthen their writing, and they will be able to create their storybook. And then for like instruction in the beginning, we will read a book and they can base their story off that or choose a different storyline. And then I did the little teardrop just because it's cute and it has the shapes in it. And it's a pretty simple story that third graders or could connect to and be able to like stem off of it, because there's not a whole lot of content inside the book, so they could create like an alternative ending or futuristic or like past story with it. And then they can brainstorm with a partner how to create a storybook using the shapes provided, and they will be able to create it using the shapes in their lab draw colored paint to illustrate their book. And then the introduction is the activation of prior knowledge. How do you write a story? What are the elements of the story? And then that's when you would read the book. And then through modeling, students will create their own stories for their book using the shape cutout sheet provided. And then daily instructions, since students will be working on this in class for 1 to 2 weeks, they can come up and ask questions or sit with me or whatever they need. And then guided practice, I'll provide models and graphic note organizers if needed on how to really start writing a story. And then teacher will also show students the final product of the story. So I have this as final product of what they could do. Have an end goal in mind. And then the independent is begin working with partners to brainstorm and begin to write their stories, moving to independent work when their ideas have been developed. And then during independent practice, students can make arrangements with the teacher to go over writing and editing if they need any help. And then students will turn in their final draft and present to the class. And then after this lesson, students will have an understanding of how to develop and strengthen their writing when creating a story, and they would have an understanding of how to plan for, revise, and edit their pieces. And a different level of learners, since like this is my imagination classroom, I didn't really know what else to write, but they'd work in a group with an associate and collaboratively write a story all together, adjusting the amount of help given to allow for independent work as well. And shapes already cut out if students struggle with scissors. The end. I don't know how to cancel out of this.
All right, so you are taking a moment, clicking on Sophia's Padlet. You can use them to make your book tonight.
It's just a fun little thing you can do. I made a lot of copies, but you want to cut out more shapes, I have more shapes.
Hannah,
Yeah.
you ready? Okay, I've got an option for you.
Oh boy.
I'll take this off of the screen behind you because it's kind of a distraction. If I can find it. Where's my
I
cursor?
don't have anything to show you.
Do you, I mean, if you want to present like literally your paper, you can, or you can put this on the screen. Okay. Pause for a second, Hannah.
All right.
I'm gonna give you about 10 more seconds to finish up whatever it is you're writing. All right. Hannah, you're up.
Okay, so for my content area in school, I am special ed, but I assume that I will be in general education classes. And whether that's working with the entire group of people or just a few students, there's always going to be somebody in the class that needs more help. So this would be a lesson plan that I would do at the very beginning of the semester. And I chose to do a project over the Sneetches, the book, and it's actually about anti-racism and being more accepting of people. And so what I would do as a project or a unit would be like what we did for the VTS, is I would show this picture and say this is a book that we were planning on reading in the next week or so. So based on this picture, go ahead and make observations and predictions on what you think is going to happen within the story. And based on your predictions, kind of make your own story. And then students would work together and independently work on the stories and then kind of discuss within class. And after they've kind of talked about their predictions, we would actually read the book and talk about what actually happened. And the moral of the story is that no matter what, we're all people. And that we may look different, we may act different, we may sound different, or we may learn different, but that doesn't excuse the fact that we are still students, we still need to learn, and we still need to be accepting. And so after we would read the book, we would see how far their predictions were either close or not so close, and connect the fact that it's really easy to make assumptions on people, but you have to understand the real story, and you have to understand people. And based on that, I would allow students to make rules for the classroom. And those are the rules and the guidelines that they have to follow. So instead of the teachers making the rules, they are part of that process. And it's them setting the standards for the classroom.
So based on the DTS or this activity, the standards that they would be working with would be interpret art by analyzing use of media to create subject matter characteristics of form and mood, and then evaluate an artwork based on a given criteria. Learning objectives, students will understand more so how to accept people, understand that everybody learns differently, no matter what they look like, what they sound like, and from that, we have to be more accepting and understanding and caring towards the people that we're with. And it's okay to ask questions, but you have to ask questions instead of just to make assumptions about people and based on how they look or how they act. So materials that they would need would be paper, pencil, crayons, colored pencils, and then they would talk about their story, make their story. Guided practice, we would talk, first introduce this picture and then make them come up with their predictions and stories. And then as a class, they'd come back, they'd talk about it, and then we would read the book as a whole. And then kind of closure, just kind of make the rules for the classroom for the entire year. So that is my project.
If you were to list one thing or two things as the assessment of the standards, what would you say that is?
Have them really think about what's going on, how they, observations that they've made or the predictions that they think is going to happen based on the picture that they're seeing, and kind of have them understand the connections they can make, how easy it is to make up a story themselves, or if they don't understand everything, how easy it is for students to just kind of things to get misinterpreted and misunderstood.
Their understanding of the story will be the better their rules are that they come up with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another obvious one.
Yeah, this would be for third grade too.
Nicely done, Miss Hannah. All right, you are grabbing Hannah's tablet address link. You're clicking on it. You're starting to fill out information for her. Casey is next. Autumn has 2 parts. Casey, did I have a PowerPoint or anything that you had submitted?
No, I didn't have.
That's okay. You don't have to. Like, I don't want to panic you with that. Do you want the document camera at all?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
The one that
Okay.
was just- the one that was just on.
Yep.
Yeah, that would help.
Okay. Casey's getting set up. If you need to go take care of your scissors.
So don't mind that. God bless you for that.
Are we gonna use this later today?
I don't think so. Yes, how she did her presentation. She wants very well prepared. She wants instant.
I was?
feedback. Yeah.
You not read your tablet?
No, I haven't read my tablet. I didn't
She's focused on the task at hand. Now she's gonna be sidetracked.
I got really big problems in my mind.
All right, Casey,
Am I good to go?
you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Alrighty, so I did my lesson on art and literature, and I kind of based it off the book reading that we did. And so my first standard was demonstrate quality craftsmanship through care for and use of materials, tools, and equipment. And then the second standard was write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, description, detail, and clear event sequences. So for my lesson, I was going to use the Very Hungry Caterpillar book. And this book goes through, as you read it, starts off with the caterpillar just hanging out as an egg, and then the next page, he's little, and then throughout the story he gets bigger, and this was the part that I was mostly keen on, the food that it eats. And so it like has all these different types of food for the caterpillar to eat and grow bigger. And then this part, it kind of gets a little fun, and there's junk food and all kinds of things that the caterpillar can eat. And then towards the end, he starts eating the leaf to prepare, and then he gets really big, going into his cocoon, and then turns into a big old butterfly. And so I would connect this lesson to my classroom with it's like second and third grade students learning about insects and like their development. And I thought this would be a fun way to have the students draw and show some creativity of the caterpillar changing into a butterfly. And so for my activity, I was going to have you guys just grab a piece of paper and then grab your pencils. Do you want me to hand it out, or should I just grab them?
They're on the run.
Alrighty, whatever works. So
Don't
first,
worry, Katie, I was listening.
So first you're gonna fold your paper in half, the hot dog style. And then next, you're gonna fold it into thirds. So kind of like halfway and then over again. So you have 6 boxes.
Oh, no, I've already messed up.
So here's my example. So the first box, I would tell the students to put the caterpillar however you want it. And then the last 2 boxes, second to last one is the cocoon, and the last one is the butterfly. And so then I would give these next 3 boxes a chance for the students to draw whatever food they wanted in those boxes, just to kind of resemble what they did in the book, still getting the process through of how the caterpillar turns into a butterfly. So I'll give you a minute to draw some things.
Is that a sugar high?
Yeah,
That's called
some pizza and an apple. Yeah, I kind of ran out of ideas for that last one.
Totally.
Then just to save some time, you can finish drawing if you would like to, but at the end of the lesson, I would bring all the students back together and go over the process of the caterpillar becoming a butterfly, but like in real standards, not eating junk food like this. And then I would collect all their drawings and then hang them up and then assess them on how they showed this first picture and then the last two of how they evolved into a butterfly. Just grading them off of that. And that's all.
I realized that I forgot what my plan actually was. It was a literacy and social skills plan. In case you needed to know that.
Why does this keep telling me my stuff is not this Wi-Fi sucks? God.
Did you update your phone?
No, because I can't get, it tells me they don't know who I am. Every time this stupid thing goes black, it really does my Wi-Fi. Oh no.
Oh no?
Array of Wait. Oh.
Okay.
Did you see that somebody was a group project?
For this? No,
Nobody did it.
not that I know of.
Okay.
If you've got a good sanitizing wipe, you could probably just type one really quick on somebody else's laptop. Oh. Because you have to type two? All right, next up we have Brooke. And sometimes you just have to make the best of a situation. She was planning on presenting live in class and at the last minute had to record and upload it. So this was not how she was intending to present, just sometimes you have to. I'll give you another 20 seconds to finish what you're typing. All right, now that you're finished with that, here is Brooke's lesson. Maybe.
Okay, so my lesson plan is over plant cell structure. and this is for fourth graders, and the time span is about 30 minutes long. So I'm going to first talk about just the curriculum standards, which is 4-L.S1-1. Construct an argument that plants and animals have internal and external structures that function to support survival, growth, behavior, and reproduction. L.S1.A, structure and function, and then VA:CR1.1.4, brainstorm multiple approaches to a creative and So now I'm going to talk about the learning objectives. Students will be able to label and identify parts of a plant cell. Students will be able to use resources to make a paint in a different way, for example, making paint out of nature. They will be able to learn ways to connect art and science using Common Core standards. And lastly, determine the difference between external and internal structures. So then the assessment plan is students will understand the structure of the plant cell while using nature to paint a plant cell. And we use outside materials to make art and create different colored paint for their own plant cell. So the content outline of the lesson is using outdoor resources to paint a cell. And then the materials needed for this lesson plan will also be a piece of paper, water, brushes, cups, trash bag, mixing stick, towels, and then blueberries, rose petals, and bee pollen. Okay, so for the lesson procedures, I'm just going to present to you as if this is what I do to the kids, and this is how I would teach. So to activate the prior knowledge, I will have the students will just get their own blank plant cell sheet and try labeling as much as they can remember. And this is what they already know. And I'll also show the color wheel to just remind them of the primary colors and what makes students go together and what makes colors. Next, for the lesson plan, the teacher will hand out a list of the steps and show a demonstration of how to make the paint and how they use nature. A picture of the correct labeling of the plant cells will be shown up on the board so students know the correct way to label the plant cell. And then for the guided practice, teacher will demonstrate precisely how to make the paint and show the student an example that I have made. And then I will make the exact same craft and give time for the students to ask any questions of how I made it or any difficulties they're having in their head. And I'll just be walking around the class and make sure they're doing it right and can answer any questions that they may have. So for the independent practice, students will make their own paint and then draw their own plant cell structure and label it based on what they learned and just by looking at the board of where to label their plant cell. The students will then present to the class showing off their artwork. Then for closure, I will have the class come together and discuss what they learned. And they'll get a new blank animal sheet. Students will then try to label the cell after learning and comparing the two cell structures.
All right, if you haven't already, clicking on Brooke's Padlet. We'll take a moment to highlight some of the things that she was doing really well in her presentation of her lesson, and then maybe some things that we think she could add to it.
Well, no, not into the, I just need to plug it in.
Yeah. Yeah, you sure can. All right. Is it this way then? Oh, that doesn't make sense to me, but okay. All right. So I am specializing in ESL. So like for my practicums, I teach in Spanish. So this book, I didn't read it in English. Like I based my whole lesson on a Spanish book. But I found it in English, so there it is. Basically, it's for second graders or kindergartners. I taught it in kindergarten. It is for students to, it's with literacy, obviously. It is to ask questions and then make predictions. And then they combine what they learn in the book and make their own little creation at the end. So my learning objectives is student will learn how to make predictions based on the images and clues within the reading. And students will draw pictures of their predictions in a prediction chart that they will have. For their assessment, they will make a prediction chart, which where they will make a question and then they will conclude at the end of what happens, and we will discuss the book as well as we're going through it. So basically it's a little rabbit or a little bunny that has a lot of imagination. I think he's talking to like the narrator or someone like directed to the reader. He's always like, it is not a box. And then like, as we're reading the book, I can be like, what do you think it is then if it's not a box? And they'll make the prediction and then they say it out loud. And then it just keeps asking, what is it? It's not a box. And then it keeps going like that. It's just making their imaginations go. How introduce, like I'll obviously introduce myself again and then tell them we're reading a book. We'll make predictions based on the cover, what they think the book will be about, and then we will start writing their ideas on the boards on their predictions. Materials needed, we will need the book, obviously, a large chart paper, markers, and then the prediction charts, but we'll make that on the thing. And then to activate their prior knowledge, I will go ahead and explain the prediction charts. We will go with it, and then as we're reading, they will make predictions and inferences. And for guided practice, we will go over the book and then make predictions on the chart together as a class. And independently, they will go to their desk with a different book and make predictions about what they think will happen in the book. And they'll draw a little picture. They can either do it based on the book that we read or based on the book that they read by themselves. So for our activity, you guys can grab a sheet of paper and draw a little box. Not a box, draw something else. And that's it.
You want them to grab a sheet of paper?
And they can, but
Perfect. Grab a sheet of paper. Oh, she's got one. Hold it.
it was not a box, it's a robot.
Oops, I did.
Ah.
Liza, Spencer, or Thomas. Sorry, Spencer, I just threw your last name in there. Liza, Spencer, or Autumn. Did any of you try drawing your box or your not a box?
Yes.
Yes. And what did yours become, Liza?
Well, I didn't really understand the activity, so I was it just like draw literally anything that's not a box?
Okay, so the first picture that I remember from the book had a bunny sitting inside a box, and he goes, "It's not a box." And then a couple pages later, it turns into like this really sweet car instead of a box, right? And then a little bit later, there is a box, and the bunny is standing on top of the box. And he goes, "It's not a box, it's a," and I feel like that one was a volcano. So
Yeah, we couldn't see like the.
it just wasn't showing up on the screen.
Yeah, we couldn't really see the screen, so I just drew a stick person.
Do we have to do wishes at all?
I would say you probably want to do wishes, because if you don't, there's absolutely nothing they should change, and you don't think that they should get better. Okay. Like, it could also be another extension that you could see happening with the lesson plan, like another direction they could take it. It doesn't mean that they will, but it could be just options. Example, like this one, I feel like once you do the lesson with this and like you actually plan this out with students, this could easily become like an indoor recess thing where somebody draws like so-and-so with a box, or like you took photos of them and you put them in a box and you projected it up on the wall, and like they can actually finish the drawing and everybody else is trying to guess what it is, almost like a Pictionary type thing. Like I could see it becoming a game with the students, even more so. All right. Let's see here. You're already 10 steps ahead of me. You've clicked on Jennifer's Padlet. You're doing her stars and wishes feedback. And I'm going to find my cursor wherever it is. Where is it? It's over on that screen. All right. I'm glancing down below. Kristen? Okay. We'll do Autumn, but then we'll do you. I just wasn't sure how long I should keep my Zoom going, just because pretty soon we're gonna hit the ones that are just on YouTube, and it's almost just easier just to click on them, watch them, and fill out their stuff. All right. I do not have both of Autumn's videos up.
If you just play the first video, I could probably just explain the second video on here. I just did like a recording and I ran out of time. So
Okay.
I could just explain it if you want me to. If that's easier than switching back and forth.
We might have you do that. I kind of forgot that you were my voice on the computer that's here. And all of a sudden you were talking to me.
Oh, how cute, Autumn.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right, let's share screen. All right. We are going to take a look at Autumn's presentation of her lesson. You ready?
Okay, so for my final lesson plan, I decided to do exploring art through descriptive writing. So the total lesson time is about 60 minutes, but it can be broken into a 2-day lesson. But for today's reasons, I decided to condense it into one. This is for the grades 3rd through 5th grade, and the subject area is art and literacy. So as you can see over here, I have all my standards. So the first one's using information gained from illustrations to demonstrate understanding of the text, either where, when, why, and how. My next one is determine a theme of the story, drama, or poem, summarizing the text. My next one is to determine the main idea of the text. And my art standard is elaborating on an imaginative idea. Moving on, I have my learning objectives and how I'm going to assess my students. So my first learning objective is develop a descriptive writing skill by using adjectives and descriptive phrases, identify and describe the artistic elements, so your lines, colors, and shapes that are present in a piece of artwork. And the third learning objective is create an artistic idea that adheres to the specific artistic elements of an artist's work. So next I have my assessment plan. So I'll assess students' written descriptions using a district or state writing rubric. And then next I'll assess the students' artistic recreations using district, state, or national art education standards. So the materials that you'll need for this lesson is the book that I have a picture of in the slide, and Art Adventure. You'll also need drawing or writing paper or just notebook paper, and then writing and coloring tools. So pencils, crayons, colors, pencils, markers, all that stuff. And then as I have over here, the websites you can use for later in the lesson. Okay, moving on to our lesson plan. So starting off, you're going to want to activate prior knowledge. And in order to do that, I would ask the following questions to start a discussion. So one of them would be, what is a description? Another question I'd ask is, when do we describe things? Another question is, what are some of the reasons that we describe things? And the last question I'd ask is, what kinds of words might be used to describe the room? So these questions are meant to initiate a student-driven discussion of description, describing words in descriptive writing. Next, I would move on and introduce the book, Anna's Art Adventure. And we read through the book together and do a short picture walkthrough. And I'd ask them to focus on artwork they see in the story. So while I'm reading the book, we'll pause every so often and just make predictions about what's going to happen in the book. And I just really want to make sure to draw attention to the art while I'm reading the book. So on the screen, I have some pictures from the book, since I can't obviously show you the book. And I would just try to ask them what they see, what are the different colors, what different lines and shapes do they think that are they making out in the book or in the picture. So after we do that, after we read through the story and look at all the artwork, we'll discuss the story, our thoughts about it, and just give an overall statement about the artwork in the text and introduce the students to the next activity that we're going to be doing. So by doing this, I would say something along the lines as there are many different pieces of artwork in the story, and as Art Adventure, now we're going to look at one painting in the story more carefully. So like I said, these are 3 pictures that come from the book, so you could pick one of them to use, and they describe what they see in the painting, really deep into it, so we just be focusing on one at this point. So they focus on the descriptions with the questions based on the 4 artistic elements, our color, shape, line, and mood, using questions similar to those that I've used at the beginning of the lesson to start a discussion. This is about to end, so I'm not going to make it.
Okay, yeah, so that's the end of the first video. So next I'd move on to the independent practice, and that's gonna have the students, they get to pick their own artwork from one of the websites that I put before, and they're gonna write a paragraph or so about the artwork, and then they're going to exchange it with a partner, and then the partner will have to try to draw what they were writing about. If I explained that correctly, my mind's kind of whatever. But so yeah, they just really want to make sure that they're using descriptive words to describe the artwork so their partner can draw it. And then at the end of it, they're all just going to come together and see and compare what they had written, what they drew matched to what they wrote. And then at the end, I'll gather all the students and they'll just share each other's pictures and just kind of provide feedback and just kind of see what everyone drew and stuff.
I don't know if she cares.
All right, nice job, Autumn. Way to jump in on your own video at the end there. I actually didn't realize it was like you talking over yourself for a second.
I just totally forgot that I didn't cut it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't want that at the end of you there. But I totally forgot, so I'm like, hopefully I can just yell over it, but whatever. Not a big deal, I guess.
All right, take a moment to click on Autumn's Padlet. You're going to be giving her a little bit of feedback. What can I help you with, Kristen? You don't need anything at all? Okay. I will take this off of the screen then. All right, is everyone done?
Okay. Hi, I'm Kristen. This is my final lesson plan. I am doing literature and art. And so my lesson is the MACN 1012. And it's used personal experiences and interests and information and models in creating artworks. So I handed you all of your things because it goes along with my book. My book is What Do You Do With an Idea? I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it or not. But what I will do, this is also for like second graders. This is a second grade standard. And so what I will do is my objective is that the students will listen to my book and then they will be able to understand like what an idea is and what the purpose of an idea is. And then they will come up with their own idea and then they will draw it. So then how I will assess it is that the students will draw their picture and then they will come up and they will like present it in front of the class and they will tell a little story about it and why this is their idea, how it makes them feel and stuff like that. The content outline, so this lesson, I'll have them go deep and explore some of their ideas. And the materials, all I need is my book and then the paper and the crayons for everyone. So I'll go through my prior knowledge as I will ask them questions on what they think an idea is. And if they already know what an idea is, share it with the class. Have like an idea. So in the book, it talks about this boy. He goes through and he had an idea one day and he doesn't know where it came from or why it was even there. And it just belonged to him and it just followed him and he had no idea what it was doing. It was the craziest thing ever. And he didn't like it. It just kept coming around. And then all of a sudden, like, people started to make fun of him for it because, like, this idea, it wanted his attention and he just wasn't giving it attention. Like, he would just ignore it, blow it off. But the idea kept coming back to him and, you know, saying, I want your full attention and everything. And then it started to grow bigger. And here's the people that doubted his ideas. They made him worry that it was weird or a waste of time and it never become anything. Then he gave up on it. And then he started to realize, what do they know? They don't know anything about it. And so then it grew because he began to love it more. So he went through and he loved it and he spent more time with it. And it grew and it got bigger and he loved it. He was very happy. He loved his idea now. And then one day it changed everything. It just changed the world for him because he realized that this is what he needed in his life. And it made him happy. So now my activity is for everyone to think of something that brings them joy or an idea that they like, and you now can draw it. And it can be anything you want. Like mine would be my family, my dogs, my cat, they bring me joy. That traveling brings me joy, so I would maybe draw that. So that would be something that I would do with my class to go farther into helping those who need the help. So I will give you time to draw your idea, whatever it may be. And so then after that, I would go through and I would ask them questions about my book to make sure that they comprehended it and what an idea was, so then they knew like what I was expecting them to do. And then my closure is once they're done drawing the idea, they will share and then just explain it. And we will all talk through it as a class.
Then what are you thinking that your assessment is of your standards?
So my assessment would be what they got from the book and what they thought an idea would be and what their idea of an idea is. Would you like this? Or I sent it to you email, I guess. But
You can leave it there if you don't need it for anything.
Oh,
That
no.
way I just have it. I can read it. All right, nice job. As you're wrapping up your drawings of what brings you joy, another strategy for having students share out artwork, you might have them do something called a gallery walk. And so they would set out their artwork on their desks. You'd have them push in their chairs. And usually you'd have like a flow pattern within the classroom. And you would have them walk a particular way, and you just tell them that we're going to take a quiet moment. We're walking slow because we don't race past anybody's artwork. I really want you to pause at each one and take a good look at what's in the image. But you could have them do a gallery walk around the classroom to see each other's artwork too, if you don't have time to share out everybody's. But usually you could do that within about like a 3-minute time span. if you're crunched on time a little bit. All right. You've clicked on Kristen's Padlet and you're adding her stars and wishes. I was joking with a few of the people when they came in the classroom that you guys all titled your stuff final lesson plan or lesson plan. So then when I downloaded it to show them, all of my tabs now just say final lesson plan, final lesson plan, final lesson plan. So when I'm trying to click on them to find a certain one, it's been an interesting challenge. All right, as you're wrapping up your thoughts, next up on our list is Spencer. Give you about 20 more seconds. Bless you. All right, next up we have Spencer.
So for my lesson plan, the subject area is art and science, and it is a total time of about 30 minutes from grades 3 to 5, and the title of the lesson is Animal Cell Structure. So my curriculum standards are 4LS1-1 from molecules to organisms, structures, and processes. And then my next standard is LS1-A, which is structure and function. And so my learning objectives and how it will be assessed are that students are going to be able to label and identify parts of an animal cell. They will also use resources to make paint in a different way. Like, for example, they'll be making paint out of egg yolk. And then they'll also learn ways to connect art and science using Common Core standards. And they will also determine the difference between external and internal structures. How this will be assessed is that students will understand the structure of the animal cell while using paint. And then students will also learn to use the color wheel and how to mix colors and create new colors to paint their cell, which is the integration of art. My content outline of lesson plan is that using paint to understand the structure of an animal cell, and the materials that I will need is paper, eggs, acrylic powder, which we used red, yellow, and blue, and then paintbrushes, water, Dixie cups, trash, obviously, mixing sticks, a syringe if you need it, and mixing pallets and paper towels. So the lesson procedure is one, to activate prior knowledge, / my introduction. So to activate prior knowledge, students will receive a blank animal cell structure and try to label what parts they already know. And a slide would be shown to explain the primary colors and the color wheels so that they kind of have an understanding of that. And they've probably already seen it before, so it's just kind of activated in prior knowledge. And this will take about 5 minutes. And then number 2 is explicit / direct instruction. So I would hand out a list of the steps and show a demonstration of how to make the paint. And a picture of the correct labeling of an animal cell structure would be shown so that students know what they would label the structure. And this would take about 12 minutes, and also they can ask questions and everything like that. And they, this is to support gifted learners, and they will have they'll work in pairs to allow like student collaboration and stuff like that, so they don't have to do it alone. They can collaborate with their classmates. And then number 3 would be guided practice. So I'll demonstrate precisely how to make the paint and show the students an example. And then I will make the same exact craft and give time for students to ask any questions that they have, and walk around the class to make sure that they're doing it correctly and they're working together. And number 4 would be independent practice. So then the students will make the paint and get their own piece of paper and their own supplies, and they'll make their own structure of their paint. And then students will present to the class showing their artwork. And this would take about like 13 minutes. And then lastly, I would end with my closure. And this is that I would come together at the end and discuss what they learned, things that they found out that they didn't already know. And then they will try to label this cell after learning something new. And then they'll compare the two. Like what they knew, they'll have one of what they thought, and then one cell structure that they labeled would be their final, which would be correct. So that would take about 5 minutes, give or take, to wrap the whole lesson up. And yeah, that is my lesson plan.
All right, nicely done, Spencer.
Thank you.
All right, take that one down. All right, so that finished up the first page of the presentation so far. This second side, we've got 3 of them uploaded on YouTube. The other 2 I have like question mark, I'm unsure of, okay? So just to give you kind of a heads up of where you're at right now. If you need to pause for a minute, and if you want to run to the bathroom. All right, to recap really quick for my 3 online, just in case you are away from the computer. All grades are updated on the deadline, so I have to have your grades in by Tuesday at noon on October 6th. Don't really have a choice in that. So just make sure that you have in what you need to have in. And on the sign up sheet that we've been clicking on for the Padlets, by the time we're done with all of these Padlets and videos that we've been watching, if you scroll all the way up to the top, there is a course evaluation that's highlighted in red. If you would take a moment to fill that out, Grandview very much appreciates that. But we've got 3 more to go, and then I have to check my email just to see if by chance the 4th or 5th one magically showed up. All right, so we are going to take a look at Caleb's video. And screen share this one. All right, you ready?
Okay, hello everybody. The first thing I'm going to do here is share my screen. So hopefully you can see that. This is a moon phase calendar of Des Moines, so you can see what the moon is going to look like each night. So the day I'm recording this, the 24th, you can see it's a waxing gibbet, and the part that's lit up of the moon increases for the next week, and then it's going to start going down again. So the main point of this lesson is going to be trying to explain why the moon looks different on different days that you look at it. So to help explain that, I'm going to use this website right here. On the left-hand side, you can see the sun. Right here is the Earth, and then the moon is in between the sun and the Earth, and you can move it around its orbit. And when you move it, you'll notice up here on the top right, this picture changes. That is the view of the moon we have from Earth. So you can see right here in the first phase is the new moon, and the moon is completely dark. And that is because the moon reflects the sun's light. And right now, the side of the moon that's reflecting the light is not visible from Earth. But as I move it a little bit farther, you can start to see part of it on the right side. And that's because the angle of the moon that we see from Earth, we can partially see the sun's reflection. Now, right here, you can see the full moon because the entire side of the moon that reflects the sun's light is visible from Earth. And you can see it starts decreasing again because from Earth, we just don't have a great angle to look at the side that's reflecting the sunlight. The other thing I want to mention is the names of the moon phases. The first phase is new moon, which is really obvious and easy to remember since it's new. And then the next is waxing crescent. So waxing means the moon side, or the side of the moon doesn't change, but the part that's lit up does change. So waxing means it's getting brighter and brighter, and you can see it's still waxing until it hits full moon. And when you get to full moon, you start to see waning. Waning means the moon is decreasing. And you can see it still waning all the way down to new moon. The other word there is crescent versus gibbet. Crescent means that less than half of the moon is lit up. You can see here it's still crescent all the way until first quarter. Then after that, it turns into gibbets because over 50% of the moon is lit up. And it stays that way, still gibbets, and switch it to crescent when it's less than half. So that would be the direct instruction. For guided practice, I would, let me stop sharing. for guided practice, I would have the students take out a piece of paper and fold it into 8 different boxes. And then in each box, they would number 1 through 8. And so we would start in box number 1 with the first moon cycle, which is new moon, and then we would just keep going through all 8 and see how many they can remember on their own. And to check answers, I created a slideshow that I would use to show them. So let me click on it. There it is. So moon phases, you can see number 1 would be new moon, number 2 waxing crescent, and it just keeps going. So I would have the students try and figure these out on their own at first, and then they would draw a circle and color in the part that is shaded. And then hopefully they'd be able to get it on their own, but if not, I can explain why each part is shaded with the reflection and all that. So that would be the guided practice. And then for independent practice, that's where more of the art comes in. I would give each student 8 paper plates and some black paint to go with it. And then they would paint their moons, or the plates would kind of be like the moons. And then they would use the paint to fill in the part of the moon that's shaded. So I made a little example here. You can see the first phase here is weeding gibbets, and this is the part that's shaded. They would just paint the correct portion, and you can see I did that for all the phases here. Next is last quarter, and then waning crescent, and then and new moon, and it just keeps going, and they're all in order. And then what you would do is use a hole puncher right there at the top with a little ring so that they would all stay in order. So that would be the independent practice. And then for closure, I would have the students quiz each other on the moon phases using their plates. So it'd be kind of like flashcards, except with moon phases. They'd go through them and try and say, okay, where is the moon in relation to the Earth and the Sun? And then also try and figure out what the name of each moon phase is and just see how many they can get right. And that would be the end of the lesson. So thank you guys for listening.
All right, you are filling out the Padlet for Caleb. I'll give you about 20 more seconds to finish up thoughts on that. All right, you ready for Alex's presentation? Here we go.
My name is Alex Lee. I will be doing my lesson plan over art and time period science connections for art 142. The total time for my lesson will be 20 minutes. It will be grades for 11 to 12. And for the curriculum standards I'm wanting to hit, I'm wanting to hit BA PR4, 1.LA presenting, and these are basically just targets that I would like the students to hit as they are doing some research on the life cycle, as we're looking at photos from the life cycle of any animal of the student's choosing. Things that they will need be needing a computer for research and art supplies if they choose to do so on paper, or again, they will need a computer to create a slideshow. And how I will introduce this is I will present a life cycle picture. So say for the chicken, we will present one for that. And the learning objectives, I will want them to are create pictures representing the life cycle, then be able to give textual evidence from a photo. My assessment plan as a teacher is to assess inference and connections that are being made about the life cycle of any animal, and if they have any questions, they come to me about that. And as we are looking at the photo of any animal, but for this example, I am continuing to use the life cycle of a chicken. I'll be able to give leading questions and what their inferences that may be, and to help them create more of a connection and understanding of what they are trying to do with the project. The content outline of the lesson will be connected art to the life cycle of whichever animal choosing. And I want them to activate prior knowledge of what they may know. So what one can assume about the animal they're choosing. So say they choose the dog, what do they know about the dog life cycle? I would like them to brainstorm what is different about each animal and how their life cycles are different. So say compare a fly to a mammal, as a fly's lifespan is very much shorter than a regular mammal. And first I'd like them to think on their own, then I will build guided questions based on what is said aloud. And for the closure, we will create a list of what we have gathered and wrap up with a clear discussion of what they think is unclear, and then it is time to create. For the reflection on student learning, I would like the students to make inferences of each life cycle or all the animals chosen and how they would be different and similar, and a connecting assignment that could go with it as students are presenting for the class. They have to jot down 2 to 3 things that they find that may differ or are similar to an animal. So if one student chooses a dog and another one is explaining, say, a dolphin, how their life cycle are different, I would like them to create a difference or a similarity or both. And for the other students that may require more attention, I would have it be more connection with the student. I would help them more one-on-one for those who have different learning needs, and for those that are accelerated, I would challenge them to choose an animal whose life cycle is drastically different from what an average animal would be, like say a whale, like for when they're being procreated, they're obviously in the womb for longer, so I would like to choose a complex animal for them to do that. And that would be it.
All right, so we have Alex's Padlet to fill out feedback for her. And then I currently don't have a video for Caitlin. So we've got Liza. We've got her YouTube video that we will bring up. And then we don't have Haley's, so Liza's will be the last one for tonight. I know you're probably like super Padlet out by this point in time. But at the very, very bottom, I do have one Padlet that I take feedback for, if you're willing to give me some like just direct feedback about some of the things for the class. Some of it's on advice for like next semester students, things like that. I will get back some of the information from the one that you do for Grandview, but that one usually takes like a couple months for me to see anything for. And usually by about November, I'm not really thinking about this class at that moment anymore. All right, a few more seconds to finish up Alex's Padlet, and then we have Liza's our last one of the night. Let you finish up your thoughts. And here we go. Maybe. There we go. We'll load it first.
Arts lesson plan combined, so I'll go ahead and present it. So the first thing we're going to be going over is the standards for this lesson plan. So since it's literature and art, I've got 3 literature standards and 1 art standard. So you can read those if you want to, but along. So the topic that we'll be going over in this lesson plan for 3rd grade literature is what is a myth. So the very first question that I'll ask the class when they get in and all settled will be, what do you already know about myths and mythology? And so they'll have a minute or 2 to think about that to themselves, and then they will share with a partner, whoever is sitting next to them or near them. They will preview the reading that is going to be going along with this lesson, but they won't read through it yet. They'll watch a short video first about myths and what they are. It's about a minute-long video. I'm going to spare you the boring details of it, but that would go along with this. And then they would go ahead and read the what is a myth reading that will come along with this. So they'll go ahead and do that by themselves. If they need help, obviously they can ask the teacher or read with the group, and then they will discuss what they read with the class, talk about what they learned, and the details of that. So after the reading and discussing a little bit, they will answer the following questions on a worksheet. So the first question will be, according to myths, how was the world created? In that reading, all of these questions will be answered, so they'll be able to find those in the reading pretty easily. How did life on Earth begin, according to myths? Why is there evil on Earth, according to myths? And so the answers, like I said, will be in that reading. They'll choose a sentence or 2 from the article that would be important to include in the summary. That part of it will match up with the standards that was on the first slide for literature. The next question we would talk about as a class would be, what did mythology offer ancient people? And do you think mythology still offers us something today? Just to get their gears turning a little bit so that they can understand. Obviously, a lot of people don't talk about mythology in their daily life, but it's something that was important in history. And obviously there are plenty of stories that they can connect their learning to. Like I know a movie for me when I was younger was Hercules that I enjoyed watching. So that would be an easy one for them to connect to. And then the last one is students will discuss their reactions to the questions with supporting details. So the questions that were asked on the worksheet, they can talk about as a large group or in small groups, however you see fit. And they'll discuss what they thought about the questions, if they made sense, how they found the questions, the answers to the questions, and then what they think about them. So that kind of concludes the lesson part of it. So we'll move on to the art side of it to connect this to art. So that will be in our closure. So at the end of the lesson, students will be asked to create a figure of mythology using a medium of their choice. So using markers, colored pencils, paint, Play-Doh, clay, whatever they can find around the classroom. It can be really anything. They can recreate a mythological figure of their choosing. So they'll go ahead and do that. That'll probably take a majority of class time. So this is kind of the bulk of their kind of creative time with art, like with this topic. So after they've worked on their creation, which like I said will probably be about 20 minutes, half an hour, they'll be asked to share the creation with the class and talk about it. So like this one on the bottom right, the little clay mythological creature. If I was a student that made that, I would go up to the front of the class. I would show my little thing that I made, pass it around maybe, and then I would talk about who it is or what it is, what its role was in mythology, or if I decided to make it up, and a fact or two about it, just about like what role it played, obviously, but also kind of the backstory behind it. They don't have to go too in depth, but if they made it up or if they looked it up, either one, they would just talk about it a little bit. They would also be expected to explain why they chose their creation and the message or meaning behind the art related to the reading, and also why they chose the medium that they did. So that'll just get their gears turning a little bit about the art side of it so that they can talk about, well, I chose colored pencils because I thought it would be easier than making something like clay, or I chose clay because I really thought I could make something pretty cool. So just so they can connect that art back to their learning and also have it make sense in their head a little bit why they chose the medium that they did for this specific project. So after that, that'll be kind of the end of it. So they will be showing the class, and then obviously either take it home, leave it, whatever you decide to do as the teacher. So yeah, that'll be about it, and that is my literature and art lesson. So thank you.
Nice job, Liza. Nice job. Oh, I don't know what we're watching. All right, take a moment to click on Liza's Padlet to give her some feedback. When I do get Caitlin and Haley's YouTube of their lesson plans, you won't be graded on their Padlets, but I might email out their link and just see if anybody's willing to watch them and give them back a little bit of feedback. Remember, at the top of the first page, there's the course evaluation link. If you take a moment to fill that one out, that link is only active until Friday, and then that link closes, the window for it. Everything needs to be done by like Monday night next week. My grades are due Tuesday at noon. Anything you turn in Tuesday morning, I will not have a chance to get to it because by 8:15 I start teaching, my day job. The other thing that I do. So make sure that you have stuff turned in that you need to get turned in. All right?
Is there like a certain length you want on that stop motion?
How long have you gotten it so far?
I haven't started, but I was just trying to get there.
I will be amazed if you can get 10 seconds. Like, I would be amazed.
Hey, I pulled it off.
Did you? Nice.
I can't get my stuff. But that was
This is also true. Your Adobe Spark
I just show you mine.
that started off as stop motion.
Mine's 4 seconds.
Darkness falls. Nice.
I see it.
All right. Liza, Autumn, Spencer, do any of you have any questions over things that are due? Anything like that?
Nope, I'm good.
Nope,
I'm good too.
Everybody seems good?
Yep.
All right, then once you are done filling out your Padlets for the night, you are good to go. And if you have anything else to turn in for homework wise, stuff like that, take some time to get those things turned in, okay?
Sounds good.
See ya.
This